Hi, I'm Amy Kilpatrick, and I am here with Joanne Evans, the CEO, CPA, CFO. We need to add all these initials behind your name. We're here with MedPro Live, and today's topic, what we're going to talk about, are three cash flow red flags that every practice needs to avoid. And we picked the top three really truly based off of what we see and talk about all the time with our clients, or when we get asked, what are some of the things that we can do immediately to make an impact. And cash flow is the number one areas that we see all the time. So I am going to set us up, and we are going to tap into Joanne's brain and let her share with us her expertise in some of these areas. So just remember, by the end, you're going to know exactly what to look for and how to fix it before it becomes a problem in your clinic. So let's talk about the first red flag. So the first red flag we're going to talk about is constant bank balance anxiety. All right, true anxiety here. So Joanne, here's the symptoms. If a clinic is always checking the bank account before paying bills or payroll, what's causing that?
It's unfortunate, but this happens a lot. And the owner really needs to take a step back and take a look at the cause and be a little bit more proactive. Because if you're worried every time payroll comes around, and that's every 2 weeks, we have a problem. So instead of taking all that energy and putting it into anxiety and putting it into, oh my God, what are we going to do, and scrambling, it's about being proactive and setting weekly targets for your staff so you know how many visits they're supposed to have on a weekly basis, setting up expectations for cash collections on a weekly basis so that all your bills and payroll are covered. So you have that regular cadence and expectation of cash coming in.
Yeah.
Um,
No, go ahead. I was going to say, people, the lack of forecasting, actually looking forward, sometimes it ends up being their biggest problem. People tend to just open up the bank account the day of and make decisions the day of rather than planning ahead of time.
Yes, perfect. And in setting those expectations with your clinic, at the same time, you also need to set expectations with your billing team, right? Because if
Oh,
your clinic is seeing your patients, if they're taking care of your patients, making sure they stay busy, at the back end, you need to make sure that they're dropping those encounters on a regular basis to the insurance company, and that they're normally and regularly following up with the billing company to make sure that you're getting consistent collections.
absolutely. I think you and I have talked about that we could literally do a MedPro Live every single day in the area of billing and accounts receivable and
Yeah.
collection. There's so many little areas there that are important, and different ways to look at it, different ways to measure it. We'll get to that in just a moment, because I am going to tag you a little bit on looking at what some of the metrics that our owners can look at. But let's talk about, I always say, if the first red flag is your major thing, I guarantee you the second red flag is coming right up right behind it. And this is where the second red flag is about irregular owners pay. And I say irregular,
Mhm.
we've actually seen where it's lack of owners paying themselves. But not only that, I think that's hard. Like, you and I agree, that's horrible that an owner doesn't get paid. But what's even worse is when they're having to go tell their staff, maybe until next week, holding their payroll till next week or something. So if someone's having that symptoms, they're not paying themselves, they're having to go to their team and negotiate when they're going to get paid, what's causing that issue with the cash flow?
Again, it comes back to being proactive and making sure that you have set expectations. If you don't have the volumes coming in, if you're expecting to see 50 patients that week and your team is not, they're only seeing 20, you're only going to have revenue for 20 patients for that week. So, setting proactive expectations and making sure that when you create a budget, so let's say your budget requires that you do see 60 patients a week, and your clinical staff is clear on the expectations they have to see, visits per day. Um, you need to work into that budget and the revenue that comes in. You need to work your salary in there. The same way you work in the payroll for your team, the same way you work in your rent, just make sure your salary is a part of that expectation. Your clinic should be able to substantiate that. So, working in your budget, setting expectations for visits, setting expectations for your cash coming in as a result of the work that you have completed, and then making sure that the visits and the targets that are set include your owner salary because you're taking on the risk. You need to make this a long term thing. You want to be able to take care of your family, build a legacy for your family, and it starts with being purposeful and making sure that the business can substantiate a lifestyle that's comfortable for you and your family. Now, if you're a startup, budgeting in $1 million is kind of but little by little, setting expectations, consistency, and being clear and accountable and following up so you can be proactive to make sure that you do get a consistent paycheck.
Okay, so I'm gonna tag a couple of little things here. I absolutely agree. Working on the revenue, making sure your revenue streams there. So there's a couple of things that we get asked when someone is thinking about hiring. We've been very lucky that most of our clients call us beforehand. Not all of them, but most of our clients call us beforehand, and they ask us to do pro formas for them. And one of the things that I've loved about working with you is really this process of understanding how to help them figure out what, can they bring someone on without it impacting that cash flow and everything, how do they get ready? And, you using that formula, not a break even formula, right? Like you want them to bring in at least
Yes.
3 times, if not more, and
Depending on the
how to get
specialty.
them ready. Exactly. And so, making sure that, and I think that's what everybody thinks. Sometimes we've had clients where it's like, oh, we've got the business, and then they bring someone on and they're breaking even. And breaking even means the owner's not getting paid. There's no profit there.
Exactly.
So within that 3 times more is where you get to play with getting paid, expansion, growth, bonuses, strategies, those kind of things, right?
Yeah, it's really hard for a solo practitioner owner, like when they're in the grind where they're the one seeing the patients, they're the one paying the bills, and it's kind of this one person doing everything. It's a very tough space, right? Because they're CEO, they're the clinician, they're the marketing, they're driving the sales. It's very difficult at that point because you're limited to your time. You're limited to the amount of people you can see. Once you start having staff under you, billable staff, once you have clinicians that are working in your practice, they should help with that productivity. They're going to help with your margin, and they're going to help bring in that additional income for you to be able to pay yourself and for you to be able to kind of cover your overhead and everything else. Now, that being said, you need to plan accordingly. You need to have a proper wait list. You need to start campaigning and marketing and driving your pipeline beforehand. You don't just go out and hire someone and then expect them to just be busy. You have to ramp up those volumes and you have to set expectations prior to. Normally, we see ramp up times. Really smart, solid business acumen CEOs, they can get in a clinician and within 3 months, they're up and going, fully full panel, full schedule, and they're able to hit the ground running. Others, it takes, 6 months. If it's taking you a year to ramp up a new clinician, you hired way too early.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, and there's a couple of things in there. I think that's the biggest thing is being smart, being proactive. I love when we get to help them make that decision. But you're right. I mean, we have some rock star clients that I love when they come to us before they even tell us they're going to hire a client. They've already been building that
Yes.
wait list and do it. And they're just asking us to verify what they're thinking and what they're seeing in the clinic. So that's a lot of fun. Let me ask you another cash flow issue. a lot of people, and we won't bore people with the accounting side of things, but there are two different documents that people, the balance sheet and the profit and loss. And so a lot of people think, well, if I'm making money on my profit and loss, that must mean that there's money in my bank account. So let's talk about that cash flow, that one, the need for cash reserve, and what your recommendation of a good cash reserve is, and how profit on the books, it doesn't necessarily mean money in the bank. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So most clinic owners, they come to us and they're not in the best state. They're either losing money, they're breaking even, they don't really have a system or flow or a process. And it's beautiful and it's wonderful because we have the opportunity to stop the hemorrhaging, to turn things around. You know, they see the influx of cash. And then I know their first inclination is, oh, let me go take some money out. Let me go spend some money. Let me celebrate, which is great. But remember all those months that you were losing money? Remember all that time that you had that deficit? So now on your balance sheet, you have liabilities, you have credit card debt, you have lines of credits, you have other things going on that once you are doing good, we need to set up a reserve, cash reserve for emergencies and making sure that we don't get into this position again. And then once we have that emergency funds, I feel like Dave Ramsey, once we have that emergency funds, taking a look at the debt and the things that have happened prior, now you have the money coming in on a regular basis on your P&L. So that month to month, you have gains. So now we take that money and then we work down the balance sheet and we pay off those deficits. We pay off that liability that happens, prior to, so you can be in a better financial position going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, being able to help someone have that reserve. And we've actually used with some of the clients, like that, we've talked about some of the goals they needed to do, that we knew there would be some future cash flow. And we've actually helped them put that, I call it the envelope system, be able to put that money to the side, not touch it, not ignore that it's there, in order for them to operate within, a new budget. And then when the money is needed, it's there. I think it's very exciting. You said we get a lot of the clients when they come to us, sometimes are in challenging positions, and
Yep.
how quickly we're able to put some things in place for them to start turning the wheel the other way and start moving them to a little bit more cash independence. And that allows everyone to sleep better, right? And that anxiety that owner can have, because they are shouldering all the responsibilities at the end of the day. So
Yeah, I gotta say that's one of my favorite things. When an owner comes in and they're having sleepless nights and they don't know what to do, working with them side by side, getting through those hard payrolls, because it's not going to happen overnight, right? We have to set these systems into place, allow people to understand the process, hold people accountable. But then once we have those nights where no, we're running payroll, bank is fine. We don't have any issues. Matter of
you can
fact, your
actually go
reserve.
on vacation, and the business is still running, and it's okay. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But they do, and I think that's the biggest thing. These red flags are things that, if you don't address them, then ultimately they become red lines, and
Mhm.
it on the back on your P&L statement, and it does create not only just anxiety, but it ultimately could create a practice that has to close the door. And so cash is king. You got to have the money to keep the business running. And so that leads us to our third red flag. Um, and this one here is, it's a tricky one. And it comes back to what I was talking about a while ago, where people think that the profit and loss statement, is working great, therefore we have the money. But this red flag's sneaky. The symptom is the business is always reinvesting that money, or the owner never actually sees the profit. And that comes back to, we're showing profit over here, but it's not in that bank statement. And really, I always say that, I bring my experience into MedPro, but I love what I can learn from someone else. And one of the first things that you kind of do with a client is help them establish a profit first style buckets in order to make sure that they're taken care of. Explain a little bit about your thought process and how you've been able to put this in a client's P&L, or a slush fund, another checking account, to basically help themselves. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, definitely not any profit first methodology, but we do make sure that the owner takes a step back, because there's so much in the day to day. They're boots on the ground. They're having to deal with patient issues, deal with scheduling issues, everything that goes on. So we're like their gentle reminder, like, hey, remember the reason why you went into business. We have to be proactive. We have to plan out. We do have to have those 3 to 6 months of emergency. We do have to set aside money for taxes. You have to plan out and make sure that those surprise, quarterly payments that are coming, every 3 months
Yes,
isn't a surprise. And so we could plan accordingly, right? And at the end of the day, it is making it sustainable for you and your family. It is very important, and sometimes we get lost in the details and we get lost in that hectic day to day, but it is very important to take care, be financially responsible. You have that additional money coming in. Do you need to increase your salary? IRS has a policy. You do need to pay yourself a reasonable wage. Are you meeting that requirement? On top of that, have you taken a reasonable distribution? I mean, that may not be, an IRS requirement, I'm not sure, but making sure you're taking regular distributions, that you're investing into your retirement plan. But there are a lot of steps that once you have that cash flow coming in, you have to take a step back. And as a clinic owner, everyone has different values. But what is most important to you? What are your values and what are your goals? And we help you attain that. Because if it's a matter of, hey, I need my retirement set up and I just need to make sure that me and my wife are good for the next, 10 to 15 years. Okay, that's fine. But what if you have children? What if you need to worry about their college fund? What if you need to worry about childcare or whatever it is? Then you have different priorities, you have different goals, and we can work with you to obtain that, and making sure that you think about it's crazy. Half the time we're reminding our clients to think about themselves.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just think about your family, think about your needs first and what you have planned and the reason why you went into business, and everything else will fall in line.
Yeah. So my favorite thing is when we get to call the client, we've given them, our month end financial summaries, right? And they're looking at the numbers, and then we go, oh, but remember, we've built in a buffer for you. And they're like, oh, that's right, and so that's so cool to be able to remind them, because we do listen to what they ultimately want to get there, and our goal sometimes is to help them reach that goal. And some of our clients are proactive, and some of our clients, they need us to nudge them towards it.
You need to put in that buffer physically in there,
in there for them, and surprise them with it, at the end. But it's important because I know in a lot of businesses they tell you, reinvest, but I think it's understanding what reinvestment means. Reinvesting back into your team. Do you need to put in, a profit sharing bonus plan? Do you need to put in 401ks? Do you need to put in IRAs? Do you need to buy new equipment? There are times you do need to reinvest, but if you're always taking that cash and putting it back in, and you never turn around and the reinvestment is also into the owner, then you're going to have burnout. You're going to have a spouse sitting out there going, why are you working and we never see anything? And those are things that happen. And so, yes, reinvesting is important, but it needs to be done smartly and strategically. And that's one of the things that we're constantly looking at with our clients' number. Okay, we've got their buffer. Now we've got money here to tell them, okay, let's reinvest in equipment. Let's reinvest in your team. And then we've even seen where sometimes we've had clients that are call us like, we want to give bonuses to all of our employees. And we're like, whoa, wait. It's not that we don't want to incentivize, but let's do this smartly.
Yeah.
And so there's ways that we've done that.
And the
So,
cool thing is, Amy, that we help our clinic owners grow and scale. And most of them, that's their objective and that's their goal, which is awesome. You can grow and scale and have the business substantiate itself. You can subsidize it for a little while, but at the end of the day, doing it right, setting up an optimized model. So then when you open up that second clinic, when you reinvest or do a satellite clinic, whatever it is, you're not having to take this working capital or this large investment. No, you have the framework, you have the tools, you have everything set up. So it's a plug and play, and it's a smaller investment to get that expansion going, to get that second location, whatever it is. But just being very strategic with what you invest back into the company. So, and making sure that you're getting the proper return for it.
absolutely. Let me recap our 3 red flags here. So,
Yeah,
one,
we covered a lot.
exactly. Giving you a lot of information to think about real quick. But if you are experiencing constantly having anxiety when you're looking at the bank, it's the first thing you do every single day is open up that bank account to see if everything cleared. That's a red flag. If you are not paying yourself on a regular basis or at all, or you're having to constantly, tell your employees that payroll needs to be pushed out a day to a week, that is a red flag. And then the third one is not having a clear profit allocations for making sure that you've got that reserve there for taxes, for growth, for reinvestment. So those are the top 3 red flags that we see and have helped our clients overcome, and continuously. I mean, this isn't a one and done thing. This is something that you have to continuously look at on a regular basis. Joanne, any encouraging words or anything out there that you want to share with anyone as we wrap this up for the end of the day?
No, I would love our listeners to just take a step back, be honest, do an audit of their practice, and just kind of gauge their anxiety levels. If they're having, if they have any of these red flags, or if they feel themselves kind of scrambling in regards to, oh wait, I want to do this, but I don't have enough cash, or I feel constrained, or wow, I have to wait to pay this bill. Give us a call. Let us have that conversation. Let us kind of reflect and kind of review things with you, because maybe there's a better, more proactive approach that you can take to establish consistencies and establishing expectations to get that cash flow coming in a little bit smoother.
That's awesome. And Joanne, that's absolutely free. Like they can get on, they can set up. So if they go to MedPro, you guys have got it, medprocfo.us. You can go out there, you can click on schedule a call with Joanne. We'd love just to have that quick overlook with you, just to talk it out. We've even had clients that have had plenty of cash, but we're afraid that they didn't have that. And so we want to be able to help you. And like I said, feel free to reach out to us. You can actually do a self-assessment. There's a QR code. You'll see it right here in the corner of our MedPro Live screen. You can go out and take a quick survey. I think it maybe takes 2 minutes. It asks you on different 8 pillars of your business, one of them being cash flow. And it lets you score. And you can actually see where you are strong and where you might have some challenges. So we encourage you to do that. So Joanne, thank you so much for sharing your tip and your wisdom. Again, I am Amy Kilpatrick. I am a strategic account manager here at MedPro, and Joanne is our leader and the one who sets the bar for us. If you've enjoyed this today, leave a comment down below. And of course, look for our future LinkedIn group where we're going to be answering questions for you within this private group that we're going to be setting up. I'm Amy Kilpatrick, and this is MedPro Live.